Going quite meta this week in Undead Unluck. I've seen some like fourth wall breaking kind of scenes before, like I can think of, what was it, Ghost Rider Paradox series did a similar thing. I think we just had a chapter in that Roboko manga that was it did a similar thing but more to comedic sense. And then I know in Rave Master they actually like have like a version of Hiro Mishima that's like in it, and then obviously like the version of him that was in Heroes, but I don't think I've seen it like done in a way that it was part of the story. Like anytime I think I've ever seen meta like this of, oh haha, look, manga creation, you know, even something with the author, it's never done in a way for the plot. But for Undead Unluck, it was done in a way like they didn't have to bring in like a representation of the author unless that's something that's playing in the future. But as of right now, just essentially, oh yeah, this manga that that Fuko has read, that like some shoujo manga they bring up with Juiz, that there are scenes within it, it's like 101 volumes, that there are scenes in it that like can compare to stuff that's happened so far. Like they had like, oh yeah, this one part where like these soccer or like alien invaders showed up, and this one character uses like this justice power to take them all. It's like, okay, that sounds suspiciously like when the alien showed up and Juiz went and did, you know, just stuff to fight them. Pretty much he just went and used her power and then watched them all pretty much fall apart. But they even bring up how like the part of the manga is similar to when they fought against Uma Spoil. Like there are things that in there that are coincidentally like their own adventures, and after they do all this stuff to kind of like get in a spot to see the next chapter for the series, for this like You Me series, that it's still in Japanese, and we know from the language unification that all languages are the same, and the only people that are unaffected have to do with like negators and artifacts and stuff. And so Annie brings up, okay, it's still in Japanese, it was unaffected, that means it was written using an artifact. So I'm wondering what exactly kind of like artifact it's going to be that can essentially write the future. Because it would have to be, if it's 101 volumes, obviously like that would have had to taken place years and years and years before anything that's going on. Because I'm just trying to compare it right now in volumes. I know One Piece is at like 95 or 96, so it would imagine it would be a little bit longer, so 20 plus years. And like the stuff with, say, Uma Spoil happened pretty recently for them. It happened not too long ago, a couple months prior, and they said it was like volume 18. So that for them would be like, I don't know, what was that, like 16 17 something years ago or something crazy? Maybe not that much, because that's what, no, I think it would be something like that, because it's, you know, if 100 something volumes is like 20 plus years, then, you know, somewhere around like a fifth of that, it's still obviously like a long time for them. Like it's gonna be so far back that they had this going for a while. And that's one of the things actually that's really interesting coming up, because if volume 30 or whatever is like around when they fought the aliens, they're probably closer to like 40s to 50s where they're at now in comparison. But that means that there's going to be a portion of that manga that is going to predict future events for them. It's going to predict stuff that they haven't done yet, and stuff that they just haven't gotten around to seeing yet in the story. And I think that actually is really interesting, just in a creative standpoint, because there's going to be a bunch of vague stuff that happens now in this shoujo manga that they know of that will happen, or they'll have to prevent it from happening within the series. Like imagine if there's something up that applies, like a character's gonna die and they have to be like, okay, we need to figure out how we can prevent this from going down and steer it in towards a better future. There's a lot of things that can come out of this, especially because it's not just like a one for one. It's super vague on what exactly the reveal would be, because it's obviously somewhat like it's done in a way that's like almost a parody of itself. It looks like it if you'd compare it, but you know that it's supposed to very lightly indicate something that happened. Like obviously Shuiz didn't go and kick a soccer ball at these aliens to get him to leave, but the whole justice aspect of it, her character even looks the same. Like there's definitely a means of like you just have to kind of like look at each piece that they give to you and figure out like how can this make sense in a way that like works with our everyday like kind of like way of operations. Like it would have to just try and figure out a way that it logically makes sense to them. And again, I think that there's just a lot of potential coming out of this, and I'm definitely really hyped to see where this goes. I've obviously enjoyed Undead Unluck, and I definitely like the weirdness of it, and I think this just adds an extra layer of the weirdness to the series that I honestly didn't see coming at all. I don't think anybody saw this weird kind of like borderline meta breaking manga, because Izumo, like, to get into this competition, or rather not in this competition, to enter into like getting a chance to get a manga at this company, which is it's pretty much Shonen Jump, it's just Shueisha. She makes a manga about her and Andy, which again I like a lot, because it probably was like the way that it was probably like the way that they got Undead Unluck kind of like actually serialized. I talk about like the older style to it, and like both in terms of the tone but also the art, and I like said like, oh, it feels too old school. And that's one of the things that I believe that people like about Undead Unluck, is it feels kind of like almost like this like 90s manga. And I really enjoy that they're starting to kind of being like switch between just new gen kind of style. They're able to still kind of stick to like an older bit and make it work to where it doesn't affect any of the other series. Like, it's not trying to one up other things. It's just kind of like that way they can have multiple different styles all at once. I like that about the Undead Unluck. I like that a lot, that it's kind of like coexisting with these other ones without anything to make it seem like it's you know, something like a cut above the rest or anything. I think that there was like a really high level of humbled kind of self-awareness with this chapter, when you have the mangaka like, oh yeah, this is their manga being presented essentially to Shueisha, and you have like parts where like obvious like your negatives, probably areas you can improve, but still looking at it of like, these though are your strong points, this is what you're excelling at, this is like the good points of the series. I like that. I think that's pretty just like I said, pretty nice and humble for this mangaka. Even if it's one for one like what they said, like I don't imagine he's probably like hyping himself up beyond like what he's already like accomplished, but I imagine that it was probably like a really big thing for them, like just whenever you know, the Undead Unluck staff got it serialized and stuff. So I enjoy this. I enjoy this a lot. I like this kind of like cool meta. Again, I think it's neat. I think that there's just a lot in general that you can kind of like appreciate out of a chapter like this, even if it's like very odd in placement, because for the most part these chapters have all been kind of like crazy action based and stuff. They even have like one thing to note is when they named the author of this manga, that's like, they even say it's like pretty much a book of prophecies, that their name Amo-un, it even has the, you know, un in there. It has the UN that the series has like decided to make its thing, you know, something, you know, Undead Unluck, Unjustice, all these different kind of like negations to rules in the universe. I just think that's cool. I think that the style of the series has been very cool, and small things like that, like when you have, again, you eventually develop like your own kind of niche thing for the series. I think that's really cool, and I'm definitely enjoying seeing how this plays out, and I definitely really am going to enjoy seeing how this plays out in the future for just eventual arcs to come. Because like I said, even with this book, we should be getting you know, just general things that will hint us for future events, and I think that's going to be really cool and just add an extra level of theory crafting into what's going on right now with Undead Unluck. So look forward to that. I mean, I think always I look forward to that. Look forward to like theory crafting and stuff for the future, just kind of like building an idea around what's to come, because most of this chapter was very, like I said, meta. Like you got some nice character points, like you had to see just some nice interaction between like Izumo and Tatiana. I think everybody likes stuff like that. I think it's always enjoyable. But to me, this chapter was more about talking of what I think it presents itself as, rather than the full chapter of like, oh yeah, this happened, you know, haha, look, they did manga stuff, and you know, they did some meta things. I think it's more telling off of both what's to come off of this book, but also I think there was like a degree of really interesting, like I said, fourth wall breaking and humbling from the manga themselves. But anyway, other than that, though, comment below, thumbs up the video, press the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Other than that, I appreciate everybody who already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.